Defense lawyers in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial have accused witness Tumelo Madlala of having selective amnesia. They also want to know how much he was paid to appear in the popular Netflix documentary about the slain soccer star's death. Now, Madlala was Meyiwa's best friend and was one of 7 people in the house the night he was shot. Our Slindelo Masikane has spent the week in court and joins us now live from which I'm assuming is not outside the court, just from what I've seen, Slee, and well done to you because you have spent many hours in the North Gauteng High Court over the last while. Thank you so much for those updates. Bring us up to speed now on this last day. Some really interesting toing and froing between Madlala in the stand. Of course, that rather famous quote now saying, "I put it to you that you have selective amnesia," and Madlala replying, "If that's how you view it, but I don't know myself to be like that." And then there was also talk about whether he was in crutches and why could he move the way he was moving, and all of that keeping people rather hooked on today's proceedings. What for you were the standouts?
Yeah, quite a short period that we spent inside the North Gauteng High Court today. But of course, we've been there for the past 2 weeks in terms of this month's sitting for the Senzo Meyiwa trial. And of course, this week we saw the state's 3rd witness taking to the witness box, Tumelo Madlala, who was one of 7 people in that house, like you've said. And cross-examination is officially underway, Marcel, where we are seeing the defense obviously trying to poke holes in Madlala's story, trying to discredit him as a witness, trying to paint him out as somebody who's evasive, who doesn't really answer questions, and has selective amnesia, according to TT Tobane. One of the questions posed to him today is around the fact that Tobane is using docket 375, which we know now is the 2nd docket in this matter, to pose questions to him in terms of a different scenario. We know that docket 375 says that there were no intruders on that fateful evening and that someone in the house actually shot Senzo Meyiwa. He made reference to some of the evidence that was collected at the crime scene, one of which is a hat. That hat, we understand, apparently belongs to one of the intruders, the first intruder who came into the house. We know that the description of that intruder is somebody who was short, had big eyes, had dreadlocks, and demanded cell phones and money. In fact, Tobane put it to Madlala that, in fact, that hat belonged to him. Let's take a listen.
Hayi ngiyaqala ukuzwa lokho akusona isami leso sigqoko ngangasigqoki isigqoko ngifika
I'm hearing that for the first time. That hat doesn't belong to me. I wasn't wearing a hat when I arrived here.
Noma ngisigqoka isigqoko angigqoki lezi nje.
Even if I do wear a hat, but those ones I don't wear them.
So that was a question about whether a hat was being worn, and there was also a question about whether blood was seen at whatever time and by whom. What is the defense saying about the crime scene?
Now, we know over the past couple of weeks since the trial began, in fact, when the defense started cross-examining the state's witnesses, is that they are putting it to the court or alleging that the crime scene was contaminated as well as cleaned. In fact, there are witness statements to that effect that say that neighbors gained access to the home before police could arrive. One witness even saying that one of the neighbors ordered them to start picking up the beer cans and start mopping the floor. And what the defense has picked up is the fact that the only blood that is in the house are blood splatters where Meyiwa apparently was shot, which is between the TV stand as well as the sofa. And it's literally just some blood splatters. So what Tobane was asking Madlala was, did he not notice any blood anywhere else? And doesn't he also find it strange that there wasn't more blood, especially on the floors? Let's take a listen.
The only blood that I saw was in the dining room. There's no other blood that I saw.
So you're saying that when you were taking our hero from the way you said he was sitting to the car through the kitchen door, no blood went to the floor?
Ingabe uthi ukusuka la namthatha khona naseniphuma naye ke nimkhipha la ekitchen alikho nje igazi elathonzizela phansi.
Angisho ukuthi alika ngilibonanga because igazi lokuqala ngalibona mangiya kuyena usenzo lapha phansi ama spot nyane egazi.
I'm not saying that there wasn't blood, but I didn't see it. The blood that I saw was when I went to Senzo, and then that's where I saw blood next to where he was lying.
I put it to you that you are seeing is selective as well, just like your selective amnesia. How do you see the hockey stick? How do you see the crash, the head, but you don't see the blood?
Now, Slee, we also had the interesting development that the defense touched on the Netflix documentary that was made about Senzo Meyiwa's murder. How was that? In what context was that brought up?
So what it does look like is it seems the defense is trying to, discredit the character of Tumelo Madlala, trying to show the court that this is somebody that whose evidence we can't really trust, that there's a possibility he could tailor it for the right price. In fact, they even put it to him that he was paid to come and testify in court. And one of the questions that came out from TT Tobane for accused 1 to 4 was how much he was paid to feature in that Netflix documentary. The state had objected to that line of questioning, saying it wasn't relevant. But Tobane is saying that the witness Madlala had already answered a question to the effect that yes, he was paid. The question now is exactly how much. This is what Madlala had to say.
Ngizoke ngifonele eDurban nginazo incwadi abangisayinisa zona cause bangitshela before ukuthi uNetflix awukhipha imali for ukuthi uinterview umuntu ngabatshela ngathi isikhali sami lesenzobe ningwestela sona and ithombe zami niyidingayo manje ngafuni yekelani then babuyela back ababenganginike mhlawumbe ukuthi kanjani nginazo neincwadi engabangisayinisa zona. I think it's similar.
I think there are documents in Umlazi. I'll have to contact someone back home and to get the documentation where I had signed because upon them contacting me, they told me that Netflix doesn't pay you for having an interview with you. And then I said to them, the pictures are mine, it is my spare time. So if you don't want to, just leave it like that. So I think the...
Now, Slee, people have been really involved and keeping tabs on this trial on every possible platform where information is being made available about this trial. What happens next now?
Well, for now, Marcel, there's about a 2-month break that's going to take place. We were only sitting for 2 weeks in September. The trial will only resume on the 14th of November, and then it will sit for about 3 weeks until the 2nd of December. And of course, we expect Tumelo Madlala to be back in the witness box for cross-examination to continue, and for Advocate Zandile Mshololo to also begin her cross-examination. I think what's going to be interesting to see is whether the state will, at any point, then call anyone else in the house to corroborate Tumelo Madlala's version of events.
Now, just very quickly, before I let you go, I didn't say that I was going to ask you about this, but our colleague Heidi Jockers was here because she was keeping tabs on the latest news involving Maleselo Tefo, who's been struck off the roll of legal practitioners. Of course, he hit the headlines with a splash because of his connection to the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Was there any reaction outside of the court today to this news coming through, or did it not work out as such in terms of timing of that announcement?
Not at all. If I understand, the verdict or judgment came out at around 12 o'clock. We had already adjourned in terms of proceedings. But I think what was interesting, Marcel, is that Maleselo Tefo made a surprise appearance in court for the Senzo Meyiwa trial yesterday. And as quickly as he came in, he was, from what I understand, escorted out. He was demanding to see the judge, demanding a meeting with counsel. But because he's withdrawn from the case, and that there was clarity that he wasn't there to represent anyone, then the trial continued as per normal, and in fact his presence just not entertained.
Indeed. Thank you so much. eNCA Slindelo Masikane. On top of things, as always, we thank her for her time this afternoon.